I would like to call the August 18th, 2020 meeting of the Hutchinson City Council to order. Linda, please call the roll.
Daveline,
Here.
Soldner,
Here.
Bagwell,
Here.
Garza,
Here.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prayer today will be given by Mr. Gary Getting.
Shall we pray? Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you yet again, admitting our dependence upon you and our need for your wisdom and guidance in our lives. I thank you for those who have taken of their time and energy to serve our community in this chamber, and those in various functions around our city who serve and protect us and care for us. Watch over each one, give wisdom and discernment, Lord, protection, guide and direct so that decisions that are made are best for all citizens of our community, and especially during this time of COVID. We pray, Lord, that it quickly pass and our lives could get kind of somewhat back to a sense of normalcy. I ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, Gary. You're welcome. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
This is the point on the agenda where people in the audience who wish to make a communication to the council are permitted to do so. I don't see anybody. Does anybody have anything they wish to say? Okay. Next item.
Item 5, consent agenda.
Are there any questions concerning the consent agenda, or do I have a motion to approve?
I have a question that I might
Sure.
ask Angela to perhaps respond to just a moment. I read your July financial report referencing the special revenue fund collections, i.e. the sports arena sales tax, where you talk a little bit about the debt service on the sports arena, and the difference in the amount collected and the amount paid towards debt is due to anticipate paying the bonds off early and saving for a reserve capital improvement fund. I guess, Angela, my question is, have you done any projections based on the realities that we're experiencing now with the sales tax of exactly when, let's assume that the sales tax is level from this point forward, optimistically, when would you anticipate that the sales tax or that the sports arena sales tax would be retired?
I haven't revised that. I've only looked at basically the worst case scenario for 21.
Yeah.
And whether we would be able to meet our debt obligations, and we would be. So knowing that, I need to go back and recalculate when we could anticipate paying those off. It's really hard to say not knowing what's going to happen to the sales tax, but I could do my best at projecting that.
When the sales tax was adopted, was it a 10-year debt service? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Beginning in what year?
15? 2015?
15?
It was somewhere around there.
It was like late 15 or 16 is
15
when we
or 16.
started collecting it.
So we're into it about 5 years, so about halfway through. Okay, so. Yeah, it might be helpful to perhaps have you do some projections using certain assumptions of level and or perhaps whatever percentage of sales tax reductions we may experience in 2021.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I will work on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
I second.
Has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Please call the roll.
Daveline,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 6A, public hearing to consider adoption of the 2021 budget.
I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I would move to open the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Angela,
Okay.
stage is yours.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Attached to your agenda item is the notice of public hearing for the proposed 2021 budget. It was published in the Hutchinson News on August 7th and meets all state requirements. The City Council will open our public hearing and take comments, and then we will approve the budget formally in an agenda item at the end of the meeting. As it stands now, the mill levy would remain level. We would see no increase or decrease in that. The budget cannot be increased beyond what was published, but you can decrease it. So I'll open it up for any other comments, and then you would close the public hearing.
Are there any comments from either the council or the audience?
My, my only comment would be, do you guys have future cash flow projections in the finance department?
Our cash flow mirrors our budget greatly because we don't really have many receivables, especially in the general fund. And expenses are expense as you're paid. So we don't really spend a whole lot of time doing actual cash flows projections in the sense that a for-profit would. So, like what you,
Because I was curious on the bond payments for everything that's coming up to be bonded in the next year's budget and what those cash flow projection payments would be. I kind of like to look at cash flow
Yeah.
projections like in the private business, but I don't know how they work here in the city, just so we could get an idea of what those bond payments were and how it affect the budget as it goes throughout the year. That way, as we can read the sales tax, whether it's going up, whether it's going down, staying level, I'd kind of know a better sense of where we're going.
the
So that
sales
was-
tax in relation to the bond payments, or?
No, just,
Okay.
like the cash flow projection, like Dayline said with the bonding, when stuff's gonna
Mhm.
be dropped off, what our anticipated payments are for certain things that we
Right.
bond and.
And in the bond and interest fund, we do that in a roundabout way, because we do want to look at our bond and interest fund. We don't keep a real healthy reserve there. So we do project that out. And I added a new page to the proposed budget this year that shows you what transfers and collections will be going into the bond and interest fund compared to the debt. Because the bond and interest fund, it receives transfers in from the water fund, the sewer fund, stormwater. Your special assessments are receipted into there. So I want to look at that whole picture of what's coming in compared to our bond payments. And we do schedule out our bond payments and what those are going to be. So those are in the bond and interest fund. So we do look at that.
Okay. Any other questions for Angela? Seeing none, I would like a motion to close the public hearing.
What are all the people that are sitting outside for?
I'm guessing for the demolition
Oh,
item when it comes up. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I motion we close it.
Okay, second.
Second?
Thank you. Would Linda please call the roll?
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Okay, next item, please.
Item 6B, public hearing to consider 2020 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant application.
I need a motion to open the public hearing, please.
I motion we open the public hearing.
Thank you, Steve. Second.
Second.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell. Yes. Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Chief
Yes.
Hooper.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jeff Hooper, Chief of Police. This is our annual Edwards Burns Justice assistance grant application that we have the opportunity to apply for every year. Last year in 2019, the grant was for $22,101. You can see that there's been a decrease for our grant allocation this year to $17,322. That grant is based off of population and your crime rate. So this is one of those times where our 28% reduction in crime rate last year is affecting us. We're going to lose about 5, but I can live with that.
Sure, good reason.
As you can see by the memo that I gave you that's in your packet, we intend to buy some surveillance equipment with this grant, and then probably the thing I'm most excited about is the Bolo Wrap, which is a new tool for law enforcement. I think you guys are aware because you approved in the budget for us to add those 2 new officers to create that crisis response team that will be responding to those individuals in our community that are truly in crisis, whether that's mental health crisis or substance abuse crisis. And those situations, while those individuals on that team will be specially trained to diffuse the situation, and we're working on some additional advanced training for that, that's always the hope. But frankly, these individuals can become extremely violent, and there are times when they're kind of out of touch with what's really going on. They don't even recognize law enforcement officers, and so we're always looking for ways to be able to restrain them, to prevent them from causing harm to themselves or others. And this is a tool by which that has been developed specifically for that, to be able to provide restraint to them without causing any harm. So I'm kind of excited about the possibilities there, and I think it's a good use of those grant funds. So I would certainly stand for any questions you have.
What exactly does this tool look like?
It's a device. It's kind of, you've probably seen the officers wearing a taser. So on their belt, it'll look really similar to a taser. And basically, it's a cable that goes out, and it would, if you've ever seen, a bolo, it's a cable that would either wrap around their legs or around their upper torso and their arms, so that they can't walk, they can't run away, they can't move or harm anybody. And so it just kind of wraps around and kind of locks in place. And so then we're able to, we get not a lot of times, but there's several occasions where, even this year, where we have somebody in that state, and officers are standing there, and this person, that once we move in to try to restrain them, they're going to fight, they're going to become violent. And this allows us to secure them without ever having to lay hands on them and get them calmed down, and then be able to move in and hopefully take them into custody without any injury. So there's law enforcement officers. It's new within the last year or so. There's law enforcement agencies that are already using it. We've kind of reached out to some of them, and so far all the reviews on it have been very, very positive. So it's something that we're hoping to be able to bring here that will have a positive effect for us. So.
Okay, well, I was making the assumption based on the name that that's kind of what it was,
Right.
but thank you for the clarification.
The only ones that will be having this device is your 2 new officers, or are you getting them for everybody?
No, just for right now, we're going to get them just for the 2 new officers that are going to be assigned to that crisis response team. That's where we see the most applicable use of those, and they're relatively expensive, and the recharge cartridges are fairly expensive. And so the other officers have a taser, which this is even more safe than the taser. And so it's something that I think is most appropriate for those crisis response officers.
Yeah, I've seen this on TV being advertised somewhere on TV. I would think that the rest of the officers, when we can afford it, we could get that. It sounds like a non-lethal way of doing things, Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of the chief?
No, just keep up
I
the good
had
work.
one question. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, first off, I wanted to say congrats on the 28% decrease in crime. That's just such an incredible thing to see on paper. We feel it reflected in the community, but to see that is really exciting. I've watched several videos and read a lot of articles about this device, and I was just wondering if you could kind of compare it to other use of force. From what I understand, it's a lower level of force than like a taser.
Yeah, and it is. We consider it's kind of in the same category as a taser because it's considered a less lethal weapon. Obviously, a firearm, it has potential for lethal encounter. So this is what we call a less lethal weapon. But if you look at, so is a baton, for example, can be a less lethal weapon. So when you look at the kind of force continuum, or you look at the degrees of force, this is at a lower level than even a taser. A taser obviously has probes that affix to the body with little needles, and it causes an electrical shock that disrupts the person's system. And so we use those tasers in high-risk situations, or when somebody is actively trying to harm one of our officers or a member of the public. And when we talk about emotionally disturbed persons or people that are in substance crisis, it's really about being able to take care of them, because they're a danger to themselves or others, maybe not necessarily even a threat to the community. And so we're always looking for ways to be able to control them with the least possible level of force. And I'd like to be able to say that we're always able to talk them down. And the hope is, with the crisis response team, is more of those situations will come to peaceful resolution, where they'll be better trained, so they'll be able to talk those individuals down into getting help. But I do know that it's unrealistic to believe that's always going to be the case. And so this would be a tool in our toolbox that is going to be the lowest possible force necessary. One of the things we discovered in law enforcement some time ago is, if we have to lay hands on somebody to restrain them, we've already kind of lost that encounter. Because every time we have to lay hands on somebody, there's an increased risk of injury to our officers and an increased risk to the suspect. And so this is a device where we can hopefully restrain them without ever having to lay hands on them while they're being violent, and that only increases the opportunity to restrain them safely. Did that answer your question, Madam Mayor?
I see. Yeah, it does. I guess my main concern is that if you have somebody in crisis, that you'd be further traumatizing them with using this kind of like device that's, kind of like what you use on animals. But it would be, you're saying you would still utilize every, I guess, method of trying to talk with them. This would be the last resort. I mean, it wouldn't be something you use right away in an
think
encounter.
that's a
I mean,
fairly good.
I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, when would it be used? If the suspect is violent or risk of harming themselves or the officer?
Yeah, and you equated it just right. This would be an absolute last resort. And when we're working with those situations and we're working with people that are in crisis, as long as they're not a danger to themselves or a danger to some other member of the community, like let's say they're holding one of their child or something, where they're a danger to somebody else, time is on our side. So in those cases, we're going to continue to talk to them. We're going to continue to try to work with them, to talk them down, to diffuse that situation. And so we wouldn't use this tool as long as they were not a threat. We would just let time play its part, and we would use our verbal skills and hopefully the skills of this new team to be able to diffuse that situation. But there are times that time for talk has stopped, because now they're threatening to harm themselves. Maybe they're holding a knife, or they may run off and threaten to harm somebody else. And so that's the time then when we have little choice but to intervene. And I certainly understand your concern about the nature. It may traumatize that individual, but I know from kind of years of experience that if once we have no choice but to try to restrain that person, we really kind of have only a few options. Either we use a taser, which is more intrusive, we have to lay hands on them, which I think is more traumatizing, or we can use this device, which restrains them. It's not like we're going to use it, restrain them, and then just leave them laying there. The officers and the crisis response team would immediately come up to them, start calming them down, letting them know it's okay. So it's only a temporary restraint device, and I think it's probably the least intrusive method for taking those individuals into custody.
Can I interject for a moment? Wouldn't it be more safer than taser as well when someone's under the influence?
Sure.
Because
it would be. One of the issues you have with the taser is that while it's proven perfectly safe, the harm in a taser is when you tase somebody, their body locks up and they fall. And so if they're standing on concrete and you tase them and they fall, they always have the ability, they could hit their head or things. And that's one of the things we work with our officers in training. The way the bolo wrap works, there is if we wrap their legs, there's a potential for them to fall, but they should still be able to stand even with their legs wrapped. But in a case like that, if they were on concrete, we have the ability to be able to wrap their upper body and their arms, and so they wouldn't have the fall hazard. And so it is safer in those situations.
Okay.
It would appear.
Yes.
You know,
Well, yeah,
once we get the
and-
devices in, we'll establish a clear rules of engagement and clear use of force policy for
Yeah,
for
because
the device.
sometimes when you're dealing with someone that's extremely under the influence or going through paranoid schizophrenia and those kinds of things, stuff can get really, I know from experience, I actually had a coworker when I was in my 20s, came to work and attempted to kill everybody at work with a skill saw because he was high on meth and freaked out and came to the workshop. We worked at a woodworking shop, and completely, we had to call the police, and the police had to chase him into the woods, and it was just a big mess, and it ended up going for like 6 hours. And so I could understand maybe if they had something like a bullet, because they couldn't get near him because of the weapons that he had on him, and it was a really scary situation. So I think any amount of stuff that you can have in your toolbox is a good thing, especially when you're dealing with someone that has lost reality, because those can be very, very scary moments.
Yeah, and those are the worst moments for us, because if somebody is in touch with reality and we can talk to them and they recognize counselors, they recognize police officers, they recognize people there to help them, we can almost always diffuse those situations.
Yeah.
It's those individuals that are in such a crisis state where they don't even recognize us as police officers. They think
Yeah.
everybody's out to harm them. And it's really difficult to reason with somebody like that or diffuse that just simply because they're not listening to anything or comprehending anything that you're saying.
Yeah.
Those are the most dangerous situations.
Yeah, and those situations, why I brought it up is because they do exist and they are scary, and you want to do the most humane thing, but on the other aspect, you have to protect your community and you have to protect the people in it, and police officers go through a lot, and I would definitely think it's as long as you have another tool that can help you, I'm glad.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other
Yeah, I
questions?
appreciate all the information, and I certainly am in favor of anything that's the least level of force. One concern I had when watching the videos is the fall risk if you're wrapping someone's legs, and I don't know if you've looked into that or what the data shows on that, if that has resulted in a lot of injuries.
And I think, yeah, as I was kind of alluding to, Madam Mayor, I think we have looked into that because that's the same risk we have when we tase somebody. We have to use a less lethal option of a taser because it locks their body up. And so we already train our officers on that fall risk. If they're on concrete, the most likely injury from a taser is that fall risk. And so I don't see this tool being any different in our training, to be training our officers that there is a fall risk, although there is, I think, less of a fall risk, because I've seen some of the videos where people's legs get wrapped up and of course they don't fall down. Obviously if they're running, they're probably going to trip and fall, but this also gives us the option of restraining their arms and upper body. I've been in a couple situations in my career where we were in a standoff with a suicidal person or somebody who was an EDP that had a knife in their hand, and they were holding it down at their side, and they kept, would move it up to their throat, threatening to commit suicide. But if we had a tool like this, when they're holding that knife down at their side, we could easily wrap up their arms and their upper torso and prevent them from being a threat to themselves, and we'd be able to take them into custody. And so that's really some of the instances I see valuable. But the fall risk certainly does not go unnoticed by our part. And like I said, we're already trained in that. But that fall risk is less of a risk than having to move in and lay hands on somebody and fight them, with 3 or 4 officers and a suspect. Inevitably, in those cases, somebody gets hurt. And so there's no perfect scenario other than diffusing it and talking them down, like I said, which isn't always possible. So there's no perfect scenario. So we're just, in law enforcement, we're always looking for the next best scenario. So not every situation this tool going to be applicable, but for those that it is, it's nice to have it as an option.
Yeah, understood. Thank you so much for all that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing?
Need a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Linda?
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
I just had one comment. I didn't know if there was anybody in the audience who wanted to speak on
Nope.
that, but I'm assuming not.
Nope.
Nobody?
Nope.
Okay.
It's just us kids.
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion then to approve the grant application.
I would move to approve the
Or not
2020
application.
Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant application and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second?
Thank you. Linda?
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Item 7A, consider ordinance authorizing bonded projects.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Today I'm asking you to approve an ordinance authorizing certain bonded projects. The City of Hutchinson will incur certain expenses prior to closing on the bond sale for these projects. The IRS reimbursement regulations require that the City Council adopt the proposed ordinance to reimburse itself for the expenditures that we will have prior to the bond sale. The projects that we are asking that you authorize for bonding include the UV building upgrades. You have already approved the contract with Burns and McDonald for the project. Zoo electrical upgrades, which will allow lighting and power outlets throughout the zoo grounds, and the airport restroom remodel. If you approve this ordinance, we will then be allowed to reimburse our expenses prior to the bond sale. In the future, I will come back to you with another ordinance for Apple Lane and the secondary treatment sewer improvements, which you'll hear. And then we will proceed with the bonding and include all those projects and the LEC remodel in the bonding before year end. So
Okay,
my
before you-
recommendation is
Before
approval of
year
the
end.
ordinance.
Before year end. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a timeline set up, and we'd probably close on the bonds early November.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the council?
No.
No. Okay, I need a motion then to approve the ordinance.
I would move to approve ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds of the city of Hutchinson, Kansas to pay the cost of certain improvements, all pursuant to Charter Ordinance number 50 of the city, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second,
I second that.
Linda?
Dayline,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Next item,
Yes.
please.
Item 8A, consider 3-month extension for structures determined to be unsafe and dangerous.
Okay, do we have some people outside, Trent, who want to come in? Okay, let's take a couple of seconds and let them join us. Okay, Trent?
All right. Good morning, council. Trent Maxwell, Director of Building and Neighborhood Services. It's been a while, so I came back at direction of City Manager to rediscuss these properties. Last time we met was just before the coronavirus situation. We let it sit and kind of wait because of the lives being disrupted. And my request today is that the properties receive that extension. After talking to them, a lot of their lives have and probably still are disrupted to the coronavirus. There has been some progress made on the 840 East 4th property. She and some partners have Been working through some of those repairs. There's still a ways to go on it. The other properties, after talking to them, I know their goal is still to save and repair the structures. And with that, if you have any questions for me, I didn't present a presentation today because the change on all of them hasn't occurred to where you would see it in a photo. And so to save that and just go through if there's any questions, if any of them want to speak on their behalf. But I think just due to the situations, I'm comfortable giving extensions to see if they can make good on their plans.
Okay, and we're talking about a 90-day extension?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to speak a moment to three of the properties in your report here, Trent. And first of all, I know we're in very, very unusual challenge situations, and each of the property owners, I think, are trying their darndest to get a plan in place and to improve the property, short of it being condemned. But I noticed on your report that there are three properties: the property at Bone Break, the property at 204 East Avenue F, and the 1600 North Prairie, that the taxes have not been paid. And I'm really, really troubled by the fact that if we're going to continue to extend this time frame, that I wonder if it's appropriate that we really consider seriously some type of a policy that we would require that the taxes be brought current before any further extensions can be allowed. And I know I'm not against the property and not against the projects, and I know these folks are challenged immensely, but I'm still troubled with the fact that if we're extending these, that there's no good faith effort to get the taxes paid on a current basis.
Mine will be. I'm working on mine as we speak.
Why don't you come to the
Yeah.
podium, please, and introduce yourself? And
Yeah. I've got the property.
we've got to have some assurances, I believe.
Right. I'm at the property at 1600 Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get with the fire department to get copies of the fire to try to lower the taxes on the first year, and I'm trying to get them all caught up within the next 2 to 3 weeks is what my goal is. Because I realize, yes, I'm behind on my taxes.
Well, I think all of us, we don't want you to put a whole lot of money into something and then have the county turn around and put you on the tax sale
I
list.
agree.
Right.
I agree.
And so that's why we think it's important for you to,
Yes,
try
I
to
do
get 'em
not
caught up.
disagree with that.
yeah,
I'm,
so.
I'm trying to get caught up in like next 2 to 3 weeks if I can.
Okay.
I've got to.
Okay.
I'm going to see what the fire department, what they'll do. If they don't, I'll
You're-
still
You're
try.
on Prairie.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That the information provided here said the taxes were past due since 2014. Is that correct?
That could be. That
Really?
could be.
I'm surprised you.
I'm surprised you haven't been
Yeah.
notified of a tax sale.
I was too.
Usually it's a 3-year cycle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead, you were gonna say something about, did the county advise you of a tax sale on your property?
No, I have not been advised of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, again, I just think that we need to put a little bit of more teeth into this proviso, that if we're gonna cooperate with you and you're gonna do your darndest to get the properties renovated, that
Right.
we just absolutely need the property taxes brought
Yes,
current.
yes, sir. I understand that.
Can you get a payment plan with property taxes? Like or did you just have to
They-
do it yourself?
They've got something in that you can, I believe you've got to pay 2 years of them, and then you can get on a payment plan,
Yeah.
is
'Cause
the
maybe
way I
instead of-
understand it.
In full, have it where we grant extensions as long as they've gotten into the payment plan, so they're at least making some form of effort as. So I'd hate for them to have to pay $6,000 and then
No, I
they can't
understand
make
that.
their
Yeah.
repairs because they just had to drop 6,000.
Some good faith effort.
Yeah.
Good faith
because
effort, like the,
This one property is
Payment
six
plan, yeah.
years in the arrears,
Well,
and the other is 3 years in the arrears.
yeah.
And to me, that's just not acceptable.
I agree. I was just saying, like, as far as paying the 2 years and then getting on a good faith payment plan as a requirement for extensions versus
Yeah.
having it paid in full, like you were suggesting. That's all I'm commenting on.
Yeah, no, I think that would have to be dealt with at the county level and then let us know what happens.
Yeah.
Susie, you had something to say?
Yes, if you didn't mind. Good morning, council.
Morning.
Good morning.
This has been a pandemic year.
Mhm.
It's been hard
Sure.
for all of us. And your comment on good faith, the good faith starts with first that all of us here are willing to restore our properties and be a part of this community. I personally am a business owner. This year, I have lost 99.9% of my work. This was the year for us to be out of debt. I'll start first with Bike Across Kansas. The first day I was supposed to deliver 2,000 sandwiches. From there, let's go to concessions. Because of the governor's mandate, remember, we could only have limited crowds. So that means auctions were canceled, weddings. My weddings were gonna total at least 3,000 people.
Yeah,
Lost them
no,
all.
I know you've been really hit.
Banquets, the Little River class reunion, Delphos class reunion, May's class reunion. I have an endless list that was canceled.
Yeah,
So did I have the initiative to get taxes paid? Absolutely. I did, and my husband and I still do. So being pandemic right now, to put pressure on, well, they're just not gonna get those taxes paid. I am, and we want to, and we will. Has it affected us all? Could we get in here today? No. So we've had all of us different things that have affected us. So what I'm petitioning is sometime the first of next year when I can rebound. And by the way, I'm a vendor at the Kansas State Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
I have lost all of that.
mm-hmm,
And between that, I had a precancerous surgery. There's others here in the audience, they've had health problems too. So I'm at your mercy. Can I pay these taxes in 30 days or 60 days? No. Can I pay them after sometime the first of next year? Yes. So I'm before you all begging on behalf of not only myself, but everyone here, because what's going on? Prices of products have went up. To get staffing people out, keep them socially distanced. There's just a lot of things that are in play here.
Yeah.
So I will appreciate if we can have more time on our taxes. We're not blowing it off or sloughing it off. And my list, I can keep going. So
yeah,
my official, I call the McPherson 4-H call center. I'm trying to line up things for the fall, but they're all on edge.
Yeah.
We all just don't know.
Yeah.
So give us just a little more time,
Sure.
please.
yeah, we're,
Have
yeah,
a tremendous amount of empathy for what you all have experienced and the entire community. And it's so unfortunate and really tragic.
Yes,
But I just have a responsibility to, I
yes,
think, bring this topic
right. And
to
I
the council.
respect that respectfully.
to have a conversation about whether or not we need to require some good faith effort to bring the
And
taxes.
to me,
down.
our effort is that we're wanting
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
our properties and stuff fixed. And I just look at, with the pandemic going on, don't weigh us down anymore. Let us get our buildings done, our houses, whatever we're needing done. And then, we're not in the tax sale yet. Do we need to get taxes paid? Yes.
Yeah,
Are
you want to
we-
be careful about that, that
Yeah.
the
Are we aware
county
of it?
doesn't intervene here and
Say what, sir?
you want to be careful that they don't get in the arrears to the point that the county places them on tax after all your work and all your
Right.
investment and so on. That
And as an
it's
older
so important
family,
that you keep them current.
as an older family, yes, we've struggled some in the past,
Sure.
but we're still here, we're resilient, and we're gonna get it done, and I'll get the taxes paid.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
no, I,
give us a chance, please.
yeah, no, I don't think any of us have any question about not believing that you're gonna get it done.
But
And I,
to pressure us down to,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah.
there's
and-
so many days, we can't do that.
Yeah, no. And we're not the ones who are gonna say that you have to have your taxes
Okay.
paid. The county's gonna do that.
Right, and
And-
just so you know, we're aware of that, we want it, especially Mr. Dave Line, you're wanting to hey, we gotta do that. It's too hard during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
is,
I,
sir.
I know your business especially has been definitely undercut by all this.
Yes, and
So-
Trent's been good to work with us, we're working out there.
Yeah.
We want it to look nice for the community.
So,
Thank
thank you, Susan. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say at this point? Yeah.
Morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
204, and I have called and checked on my taxes, and I think it might be 2 years.
Mhm.
And I'm checking my receipts because some of them have charged me for what I've already paid.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But I have called and I'm checking up on them, and I will pay mine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comment?
For the 3 month, I just wanted for the 3 month extension, Trent, what are your goals to have next time we meet in 3 months?
Well, we've always started with 3-month extension. Obviously, if you guys feel the need to change that, some have expressed challenges, I believe, even with 3 months. My goal with any extension is to see some form of a progress so I can come back and report and show something changing. We've always asked for significant progress to where visibly you guys can see the change, see the improvement. I don't know if 3 months is going to be enough for some of them or not, but that's where we've always started with is a 3-month extension. You guys have the ability to amend that if you wish, but that's what I would expect to see is in 3 months, see some improvement to the property.
Yeah.
And that
Uh,
would bring it in November, end of November.
Mhm. Be about right.
About the second meeting in November or possibly the first meeting in December,
Oh.
based on dates.
I think 3 months of work, and then that
Mhm.
way you see improvement, and if you have to bring it back and work with them, I think we're willing to work with that. I am anyway.
Thank you.
This is an odd year.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve a 3-month extension of time to complete the rehabilitation of 2100 South Bone Break commercial and residential structures, 1600 North Prairie, 840 East 4th, and 204 East Avenue F.
Second,
Linda?
Dave Line,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Next,
Item 8B, consider secondary treatment improvements to design build agreement.
Brian? Thank you all.
Yes, thank you all.
Good morning. My name is Brian Clennon. I'm the Director of Public Works. A wastewater treatment facility planning study was completed at the end of 2018 that identified needed improvements to the secondary treatment process. And the purpose of our secondary treatment process is to remove biochemical oxygen demand, phosphorus, nitrogen, and ammonia. KDHE has required these upgrades to the secondary treatment process. They want those completed by June 30th of 2022 to meet new, more strict ammonia requirements that they've put out. into that are in the effluent that we discharge to the Arkansas River. The facility planning study has estimated that the improvements would cost $2.8 million. So now I just kind of want to walk you through our secondary treatment process and explain that just a little bit. We essentially have two systems for our secondary treatment. The first system consists of aeration basin 1, which is located right here, and aeration basin 2, which is located right here. Air is supplied to these two basins by equipment that's located in blower building 1. This system was constructed in 1985, and it treats roughly 40% of the flow, of the wastewater flow that we treat at the plant. The second system was constructed in 2005. It consists of aeration basin 3 and aeration basin 4, and air is supplied to those two basins by equipment that's located in blower building 2. And again, this system treats about 60% of the wastewater flow. So this project is going to make improvements to that first system, that system that was built in 1985. And essentially the improvements are to supply more oxygen to the waste so that we can reduce our ammonia concentration in the wastewater. So those improvements will consist of 4 new blowers, some HVAC improvements at blower building 1, new aeration piping. We're also going to have new diffusers installed in aeration basins 1 and 2. And these diffusers, what they do is they basically put out fine bubbles into the waste, into those basins, and then those bubbles diffuse oxygen into the wastewater that are held in these two basins. Then we're also going to be relocating the centrifuge and gravity belt centrate line to improve overall plant operations. And so this line is taking very high ammonia concentrated wastewater, and right now it's slugging. It's putting that all at the head of the plant, all in a relatively short period of time, 5 to 9 hours. And the changes that we're making are going to allow us to put that in slower over time and not have such a drastic impact to the treatment process that we're dealing with. The preliminary design for this project has been completed and the construction cost has been developed. That construction cost is going to be $2,120,155. And so at this point, city staff is recommending that the council authorize the mayor to sign the attached amendment.
Okay. Does
Brian,
it- yeah.
in going over this work project here, I understand the multi-layers of this project here. But there's some language in here that Burns and McDonnell included. We've previously discussed this. Now I just wanted to revisit it a little bit. It says, this agreement excludes any all-time delays and cost increases arising from COVID-19. Is there any consideration that we could incorporate into this agreement on a cost not to exceed? Or does that complicate the problem, or how much at risk or unknowns as far as cost overruns could we encounter through the unknowns?
Yeah, and again, I did visit with our contractor about that language again, and I think that there's not a huge amount of exposure for us. Again, the contractor is not planning to mobilize his staff until all of the equipment is on site. And so equipment delays is one of the things that could be impacted by COVID. If a factory that's manufacturing the piping or maybe a circuit board that we need is shut down, that could delay the shipment of that. And so the cost that we would have to pay is if the contractor was on site and he had to demobilize his whole crew because the equipment wasn't in on time. So that's one of the things. The other thing that could impact and add cost to the project is if, you know, a local ordinance said, okay, there's no more gathering of 3 or more people, or something like that, that prevented them from being able to do work. I don't see that happening. Or if their construction crew got infected with COVID-19 and they had to send some folks home. At that point, we're gonna have construction equipment on site that is going to have to be paid for. And I think we've got a good working relationship with Burns and
Yeah, I know you
McDonald
do.
and CAS. And I think that we would work something out that is fair. But again, I
Yeah.
believe that our exposure is minimum on this, just by the overall schedule and when
Okay.
those materials are
I'm
going
gonna
to
interject.
arrive.
If the minimum's low, then, and you have that relationship, then it wouldn't hurt them to include and do not exceed. I mean, I think it's fair for both teams to presume a certain amount of risk based off COVID-19 instead of just an open-ended check from just the city for COVID-19. Is that your sentiment on it?
Well, I know we've got, we've had a great working relationship with Burns and McDonald. And I don't want to put any restrictions, but also want to try to cover our bases as far as the unknowns and your best expertise as it relates to what our exposure could and may be, whether it's a extraordinary level or not. I guess I was just looking for some assurances that would be preferred,
Mhm.
but perhaps not a requirement in the agreement. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because
Yeah.
COVID is a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, almost impossible to predict what's the worst case scenario. And so I think there's just language in there to cover them, themselves from something really bad happening and impacting the project.
Paul, are you comfortable with?
Well, council, understand that in today's times, they're very unusual times, right?
Yeah, right.
And you're not gonna see a contract that doesn't have that provision in it. Because
I
you've got
see.
to have an out for circumstances you cannot control. Contracts have always had provisions that talk about acts of God and natural disasters which people can't control, and it impacts costs. So this type of provision is not unusual. You're going to see it. And like Brian said, it's very low risk here, very low risk. So am I comfortable with that? Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I just, again, wanted
Yeah.
to visit it, just to
Yeah.
make sure to ask those questions, that we just are not operating with a blank check.
Right.
Yeah,
That's all.
that was my concern too,
Yeah,
with
just
the
as a
blank check.
check.
Like
Sure.
if we could modify it in a way
But
to say that we
This is the new
would
norm then, is your
like,
Yeah,
suggestion there.
I think you're right, John. I think it's the new norm, and we're just gonna have to go with the flow, and I think as long as our legal counsel is comfortable with it, we need to be comfortable with it too, because we certainly cannot project every possible contingency. So,
That's fine, I appreciate that. Okay.
yeah. Anything else, Brian? Thank you for the picture.
Yeah,
It helps.
thanks.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Let's see, let me get on the right line here. Motion to
Yeah.
approve amendment number 3 with Burns McDonald for the primary clarifier affluent pipeline project and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second?
second,
Linda?
Dave
Yes?
Solomon,
Yes.
Bagwell,
yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Item 8C, consider 2021 budget.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. We've held our required public hearing for the 2021 budget. So it's open for discussion, and if you agree to approve what was published, we would need a motion to approve the budget.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 budget?
Motion to approve the 2021 budget as proposed.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you.
Dave
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Item 9, report of city officials.
Okay, let's start down on the far end, Sarah.
I don't have anything today other than God bless everybody, and I hope that we get through our. I know with the COVID we have quite a few, especially like you at the prison. We've got some clusters right now, so just hope that everybody that's affected by those clusters right now comes out of this safe and sound.
Steve?
Yes, I just like to let everybody know, me being a first-time city commissioner, that we have all the interests of the public, and I kind of appreciate Dave Line bringing that up about the taxes. Me as a city commissioner, we're going to work with the city and do the best we can, but we all have to stick together and get through this together. So we have trying to do all the best we can with the citizens, and just everybody work together. We have the best interests that we can do. That's all I got.
Thank you. Ron?
You know, I have nothing this morning.
I don't really have anything either, except I just noticed on the front of the Kansas Government Journal is Smith's Market. And so we'll have to read the story that goes along with it. Anyway, that's all I have. Jade?
Oh, I do have a few items, if that's okay. Can you still hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've been in contact with Chief Hooper about this, but I received a complaint from a resident near Orchard Park about some activity happening in the park that's really disruptive to the neighborhood in the evenings, kind of, I think, drag racing and vandalism and other items. And so I was inquiring about the possibility of getting better surveillance there. I don't know if we have any cameras there, but it's been going on for quite some time, and even if we put more resources on it, so let's say we have a few officers on the lookout, I guess, in the evenings, it just resumes at a later date, and I don't know what the cost associated with that is, or what the appetite of the council is for putting cameras up there, but it's happened in other parks too, I think. I just want to do whatever we can to, minimize that. And I don't know if the chief is still there and he could speak to that, or if Todd's there and he has any plans for surveillance.
Yes, Chief Hooper is at the podium.
Yeah, again, Chief
okay.
Hooper. Yeah, the mayor and she did forward me that. This has been a constant problem since I have been here. Residents up in that area have reported to us numerous times. And it does go from drag racing up there, after hours drinking, and recently we had some vandalism to the playground and stuff up there as well. And so it is a situation where we have taken very seriously. We've put multiple officers up there. We have that as an extra patrol area and a selective enforcement zone. We've even, with some of the vandalism and stuff, this may sound silly, but we even put plainclothes officers out hiding in the trees with binoculars, and officers in cop cars waiting around the corner for when this group shows up and then starts causing problems, so we could identify them. One of the things that did actually help us is there's a car club that goes up there that typically just wants to sit around and look at each other's cars, and they don't really cause any problems. And we actually made contact with them and tried to get their assistance in helping us with some of the more disruptive people up there, so they don't lose the privilege of that park. And that's been somewhat beneficial, but it's a problem that unless we put an officer up there 24 hours a day, we simply can't solve that problem with current policing methods. So there's a couple options. I've talked to Todd a little bit about putting another camera up there. There is a camera on that structure up there, but because of and I haven't been up there myself, but the way he describes it, because of the ring around that structure, we can't get a downward angle to see the parking area or the entrance, so we could actually record tags coming in and going out. We just can't get the proper angle. And it would cost, we'd have to get with him, but it would cost a significant amount of money to put a camera system up there whereby we could do that. I think personally, the best method would be to put a gate across there that we could close at hours, so that would obviously deny access to that park. The biggest problem with that gate, though, is somebody's got to lock it every day. Somebody's got to unlock it every morning. So, and while cameras are nice to have up there, all they really do is show us what happened after the fact. They're not going to prevent any of that or prevent any of that damage up there. So, I mean, can the problem be fixed? It can, but we're going to have to throw money at it in one way or the other.
Yeah.
So. I don't know.
We've invested a lot in that park, and I would be in favor of trying to put a gate up. I know that is a pain, but if that's, in your opinion, the best option for stopping the damage, then, I mean, I think we're already throwing money at it from a reactive, standpoint.
Yeah, and that's
when
not
we have to repair.
That's not a park that has a lot of foot traffic that accesses that park. Most of the people that go up there drive up there, and I think most of the people that are causing these issues are driving up there. So I think the best way to combat that would be a gate, as long as we would solve the problem of who's going to shut it down and open it up every day. But that would be probably the biggest deterrent up there and the most effective, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have staff at the park. I mean, I know the comparison was made to Dillon Nature Center and the fact that they have a gate. Well, they have staff at the Nature Center during the day who can shut it down when they leave at night, and that's not the case. I don't know, Justin? You didn't know, but here you are.
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. I absolutely agree. A gate's the best solution, but the issue is who opens it and who closes it. In a previous community, I actually hired a private security company to come in and open and close, or we opened it with staff every morning, and they would come and close it every night. So there was an hourly fee. Another issue we run into when closing it is if a vehicle is in the parking lot,
Right.
but they're out on the hiking trails or something, is locating that individual to get them out. So, what sounds like simple, just go and close and lock the gate, could turn into an hour or more process every night until we get people educated. So it's a little bit more complex, but I definitely think it's the right direction. I can look into solutions with having what our staff availability is in the evenings, because we do have some staff. Mornings would be much easier for the opening. And then I can work with Chief Hooper as far as maybe PD can help with the closing. But we can work on that and bring a solution back in the next meeting or 2 meetings.
Okay, what is technically the time that the park is supposed to close?
At midnight.
At midnight?
To 5 a.m. or 6 a.m.
Okay.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I
late,
think
midnight.
it's a matter of training, and the public knows that Cary Park has hours that it's not open because, that park's been around forever and that expectation was set a long time ago. So maybe it's just a matter of taking that step to put in the gate and using, it's going to take some time to train people that got to be out. Hopefully nobody's hiking at midnight, you know what I mean?
Mayor, we also have a plan that's already been prepared for surveillance out there. It got put on hold because of the COVID and budget and all that, but there has already been some engineering done. It's not terribly expensive to do that. I've already discussed a little bit, by the way, this is Todd, the Director of IT.
Yeah.
I've already discussed a little bit about with police how we could survey that, and so there's already some background story to this, and we are trying to solve that problem. So I think all of us working together, we could come up with a really good solution to solve some of these issues.
Okay, well,
That would be awesome. And, I know we've already voted on the criminal justice grants, but when I think about the type of, investments we can make in our community to keep them safer, I think of things like this that could be kind of proactive instead of reactive. And I know that, each tool has a different purpose, but, and instead of always thinking maybe weapons, we could think more along those lines. But anyway, I really appreciate the feedback. Do we have any kind of timeline on when we expect the surveillance piece to fall into place?
So that whole world was put on hold for me. So I just need direction, and once I get that, I'll get it kicked back in again. It's not it's not very much money. It's just time and resources in order to get it rolling. So, just, Jeff tells me to do it and I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, and we can visit with him more when he's back. I'm not sure how much he's aware of this. I did tag him on an email or two, I think, about it. So I appreciate that. But yeah, look forward to a solution there.
Okay, I have one more comment. This is Justin again. I have one more comment that I was going to make, and Chief Hooper just reinforced, is we may look at altering the hours of that park as well. And that's done through city ordinance. We may have to modify the ordinance to close Orchard Park at 10 or 11 or something a little bit earlier. May also help some of this. So that may be part
I'd totally
of that
be in
package.
favor of that.
Okay.
Yeah, midnight seems a little
That's
excessive
what I
to
thought
me too.
for park use.
So.
Yeah. It's funny, Justin, when you're talking, Todd was still at the podium on the YouTube. So.
Okay, anything else, Jade?
Yes, I did have a few more things. Okay, for all of those following the pickleball saga, I have a meeting Thursday to try to remedy that. So hopefully we'll have a solution on that soon. And then I wanted to bring up an idea that I noticed in Colorado when I was vacationing there last month with my husband, that several restaurants had extended their dining out to parking lots and sidewalks. And then I just noticed, I think it was last week, that the city of Wichita passed an ordinance to allow restaurants and retail shops to use public right-of-ways, sidewalks, grassy areas, et cetera, to kind of, again, extend their dining that in a way that promotes social distancing. And, I'm not sure if that's something our community would be interested in doing, our restaurants, but I know that some of these restaurants aren't viable with less tables open, if that makes sense. Like we heard about earlier from a restaurant owner earlier in the meeting, they're really struggling because they can't operate at full capacity. So anyway, I didn't know if that's something we wanted to kind of work with the chamber to survey our business community on whether or not there's interest in that, and if we'd be willing to consider that kind of open air concept.
Well, I think
Does anyone
most
know what
of-
I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, Skates has already put up a tent in their parking lot and are doing outdoor dining out there. Bogies has built kind of an open air patio out in front of their building. I noticed that the other day when I drove by. So I think certainly that would be something worth exploring with the chamber. Personally, I have no objection to it, and I don't know about anybody else.
No, I think it's a great
Sure,
idea.
fine.
Yeah,
I think it's good too.
so,
Okay, well, I mean, it's really up to the business community. If they're interested in it, if we can pay the path, I think, and Wichita, they just allow them to apply for a free temporary use permit.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll get with Deborah on that, and again, I won't push it if it's not what the business community wants, but maybe coming back with that in a few weeks. And that's all I had.
Okay, great. Anything else for the good of the cause? Okay, if not, motion to adjourn?
Well, I'd like to bring one more thing, if you don't mind.
Sure. What?
I know a lot of you have known that I've been trying to get a junior council going. It's going well. Jada's working with me. Here in the next couple of weeks, we'll have more, let you know what's going on. The kids are excited about it, and
Good.
I think we're trying to work out the details for it. So that'll be up and coming in a couple of weeks. So
Okay,
working with a teacher at the Hutch High, so
sounds good.
it's going to be good.
Yeah, thank you for continuing to pursue that endeavor. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Linda?
Dave Line,
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes, thank you, Nancy.
Oh, you're more than welcome.